Welcome to another edition of Exit Philosophy. He's Mal, I'm Griff. And before we get into it, and this will be a lot about the World Baseball Classic that is unfolding as we speak. Thanks for listening to our podcast. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for sharing with your friends and continue to grow our audience as we enjoy bringing you a season of the defending American League champions and our commentary on it. But we do appreciate everyone who listens either on where you get your podcasts or watches on YouTube. So before we get into the World Baseball Classic part of it, we must comment again on the addition of Max Scherzer, and we'll get into the impact there. But it strikes me as amusing that now the girl dads are taking over the Blue Jays clubhouse. Remember last year in April when Vlad was in the middle of negotiations for a long-term deal? At his press conference, he credited his daughter with saying that, "Daddy, please sign with the Jays. I like it here. I want to stay here." And then, of course, we had Kaz Okamoto at his presser when he came over from Japan saying he showed his daughter the 30 logos and she picked out the Blue Jays logo and said, "That's the one I like," and that's where he signed. That's two. Now, Max Scherzer, around Christmas, letters to Santa, his daughter tried to slip one in and said, "Could you get a stamp for this?" And it was addressed to the Blue Jays. So Max and his wife read the letter, and it was, "Dear Blue Jays, please sign my dad. We love it, blah, blah, blah." But it's a great story. What do you think of the impact, or it's just one of those human interest things that fans love?
Well, historically, I guess the daughters have done a better job of recruiting than Ross.
Good point.
I mean, it is cute. I mean, it does tell you though that there's more to it than obviously just money at a certain point. Usually, money rules the day, but there's more factors, right? Location, family. It's a big thing. Where does the family want to go? Where do they want to be? What do they like? The Okamoto one certainly is a result of being in the World Series. You're not going to recognize the logo otherwise. But yeah, there's other factors that go into it sometimes, and your kids and your spouse, and it matters. Their opinions count nowadays.
You've been observing and with this Blue Jays organization going way back. I was in Montreal with the Expos, and then for a while with the Blue Jays. But one of the things that both those organizations had to take care of was families, because they were coming to a foreign country, and you can reflect on how much import the Blue Jays have put into that aspect of it through the years. I think it's more of a selling point than the Pleasure Palace home park and the player development complex that's state of the art. I think the family aspect is as important, and the Blue Jays, going back where you can describe how far back you remember it, has been very important to any success in recruiting that this team has.
It's just what I was saying. It's become a bigger factor for teams, and to make sure that everybody's comfortable and you treat the families well. And I will give credit to Mark for acknowledging that. And Mark's about all those, other factors like you just mentioned, and trying to attract players with facilities. As much as you can criticize the high performance team, and when it came in, the idea behind it, I liked. I did think the execution wasn't so great, but he really changed how you treated families. We would dedicate someone specifically to that role to provide services for families. And I think it matters. I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, the quality of the team and the money you're spending is going to be number one. But those things can tip the scales. And you're seeing a little bit of that right there, right? How maybe Max's family feels and things like that. The families are treated well. It's important, and I think other organizations are doing it too.
Yeah. I think Mark comes from a background where he's always had to work on convincing people to come to his location.
Exactly.
We're talking about Cleveland, where that wasn't like the Garden City of America.
No.
And so he had to work hard on that aspect. It's also, there's a lot of word of mouth, and it's not just word of mouth from player to player, but players' wives to players' wives. And if they're treated well, which they have been historically in Toronto, they've made it a big part of their sales pitch, then that word of mouth counts as much. And you know, we both remember when families, and this is society as well, that the nightlife in a certain city was sometimes as important to players.
Yeah, you know that in Montreal.
Atmosphere.
That's Montreal.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. But yeah, no. So this was a good job by the daughters. Good job by the Blue Jays in creating that situation where Vlad's daughter and Max Scherzer's daughter want to come back and want to be a part of this. So congratulations to them. That's 11.6% of the 26-man roster. So just keep it up, and in about 10 years, it'll be all daughters.
Yeah, that daycare facility's got to get some attention. Obviously, that's an important part of the process.
Getting from the clubhouse back to the elevator after a game, you're fighting your way through kids throwing balls around the tunnel and whatever.
Absolutely.
Curses. Before we get into, again, the WBC, news that Kyler Murray is being released as quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals, former first-round pick of the Oakland Athletics.
That's right.
Do you think that, I mean, he's finding out the hard way that your lifespan in NFL football, as glamorous as it may be, as it may seem, is nowhere near what it is in Major League Baseball. Do you think some teams should take a flyer and just sign him, send him to the minor league complex and see how that works out?
Hey, if we did it with Michael Jordan, I guess we could do it with Kyler Murray. I mean, why wouldn't you, actually? I mean, it's not like he's a back end, draft talent. He was first round talent. I mean, it may be too late, but I think it's worth taking a look.
Well, if he doesn't get a job with the Jets or something. So
right.
But speaking of Michael Jordan, I remember when I was writing for the Star and I went down to Sarasota to cover the White Sox when they were there. And I forget what the issue was, but I was touring camp. So I'm writing a column at this window looking out onto their control complex with batting cages and whatever. All of a sudden I'm writing, and this person goes running by the window no more than 3 feet away from me. And he does it again and again. It's Michael Jordan learning how to slide. And like, you think as a professional writer that you're not a fanboy, but like my heart was like racing. Michael Jordan is just continuing to run by, and I look out the window and he doesn't know how to slide. But God bless him, he's Michael Jordan. I think he's done all right for himself, not knowing how to slide. So.
There are a few people just in, celebrities, like I said, that you just run into that, for a second, take you aback, and you're just like, whoa, like you said, Michael Jordan, right? I've told you we've had a lot of musicians come through, and actors, that's always the case, right? And for usually you don't care. But I can just remember the one time, and I may have mentioned this before, and I'm in the dugout and somebody's here to sing the anthem and nobody is talking to him. And it's Paul Stanley, A Kiss. And you're like, it was a similar feeling for me. Like, does anybody realize who this guy is? And you were just like, just the status that they have. It's a little more elevated than any other celebrity. You're just like, I got to go say hi.
that was a little before my time coming to Toronto, I think, but or maybe I wasn't at that game, but when Slash played the anthem, that was one of those, because he looks exactly like he does on stage, and it was a brilliant rendition.
It was
the national anthem. It was great. World rankings, going to the World Baseball Classic now. You would think, and within the tournament, Canada is ranked 8th, which is not a good sign of trying to win the tournament. But we'll talk about what pool they're in and what their chances are. But going into the tournament, the World Baseball Classic 2026, Canada's ranked 20th in the world, trailing. All these teams are in the teens of the rankings. Colombia, Italy, Czechia, Nicaragua, China, Germany, and Great Britain ahead of Canada. What do you think that those should just be discarded? Because, you know, all the tournaments, it seems, that create those rankings, Canada doesn't send a representative team or no team. Well, do you think it matters?
No, and I think particularly for this tournament, we're running out our best, right? And like you said, I think those rankings generally come from tournaments we probably don't enter into. And like you say, we, you know, obviously if we do, clearly we're not sending our best. But it doesn't matter. Like at the end of the day, you know what I mean? As long as we're in the tournament, I'm not sure the ranking matters, although perhaps if we put a good showing up at this tournament, I'm not sure how it's weighted, so I'm not going to pretend to tell you that. But you've got to think that if you could put up a showing and get into the next round, we'll move ahead of some of those countries. But it doesn't matter at the end of the day.
Well, it doesn't matter now, I think, because there's so many Canadian players at the affiliated levels of the minor leagues, plus in the major leagues. But I remember one of the early years that Canada actually had to qualify.
Well, for sure, it matters then. Yeah.
Yeah. In 06, they were invited. I think in 09, they had to qualify because they didn't get out of the first round. Still haven't got out of the first round. But I think that there's more of an understanding of where Canada actually sits in the world pecking order of baseball countries. So
yeah, you don't want to be falling further behind, that's for sure. Because then you got to qualify, and you got to qualify with not your best.
Right, because they're playing AAA and AA in Major League.
Right.
I remember in 05 when I was there when they made the announcement of the 06 tournament. And, you know, the U.S. thought they were going to romp through it. They named Buck Martinez as the manager. And because I think it was the All-Star game in Detroit and Dontrell Willis was for the Tigers, so they announced that Dontrell Willis would be the starting pitcher in the first game. I think they took it too lightly, and they had all these washed-up superstar veterans who were going to the Hall of Fame on the team and playing. And they got shocked. They did not win. They've only won once in 6 World Baseball Classics. But I remember in 05, as a Kingston, Jamaica-born writer and manager in Ontario baseball, I checked to see if Jamaica could qualify, because then I was going to volunteer to manage the team. Like the Jamaican bobsled team had just been 10 years, 12 years before, 3 or 4 Olympics before. So I was going to volunteer to manage the Jamaican team and try and qualify for the next World Baseball Classic. We have me, Devon White, Rolando Rooms, Chili Davis. Justin Masterson is the only pitcher that was on that list. And of course, at catcher, we had my 2 sons who would qualify because I was born in Jamaica.
More importantly, can any of those people play still?
No, at that point in 2006 and in 2009, they were all done. But the thought crossed my mind, and I checked the World Baseball Federation rankings, and Jamaica just missed. They were like 146th nation in the world.
Wow. Maybe you should have went back there and built the program.
Yeah, a lot of low ball hitters.
Yeah.
So we'll jump ahead to this year's World Baseball Classic, and it's underway as we speak. The Asian Pool C is underway, and there's been a couple of games. And so if you're listening to this or watching this, we'll be well into the tournament. But we're going to talk ahead of time on what needs to happen specifically for Canada. But let's go through the pools first. I'll read the names of the teams in that pool, where they're playing the first round. And then I'll give you my predictions, and you can follow up with yours, Mal.
Sure.
Pool A is in San Juan. That includes Canada. It's Canada, Colombia, Cuba, Panama, and Puerto Rico. And, you might easily say, well, Puerto Rico should be in finishing 1 or 2 because the top 2 teams out of 5 advance. But Puerto Rico had Carlos Correa. They had Francisco Lindor not be eligible. They had Jose Barrios not be eligible because of insurance concerns. And they're very upset about that since they're hosting, and they would have loved to have their best players out there. Cuba, a lot of people would expect that Cuba is a traditional powerhouse, but that island nation is struggling right now. They're in the middle of a blackout right now. They have sanctions for gas and oil being shipped in. The U.S. has sanctioned any imports into that country. So who knows what, the Cuban players from the major leagues are one thing, but those playing on the island, which is the majority of them, their pitching staff
and they've fallen off in the last couple of decades.
Their pitching staff is bolstered by Cubans who have gone to the Japanese league and done very, very well. But can that carry you through a 4-game round robin? We'll see. So that gives Canada probably the best opportunity that they've had in a long time. I'm going to go in that pool. I'm going to say first Puerto Rico because they're playing at home and they've got a chip on their shoulder. And then 2 Canada. I think you got to be 3-1 to advance. There's no doubt. 2-2, you're in a tiebreaker at best to advance. 3-1, you're likely you could finish first or second, but they would advance. So I'm going Puerto Rico and Canada.
Yeah, this to me is the toughest pool. Puerto Rico's in a bit of a spot here, even though they're clearly head and shoulders the best team if they have all their guys. I truly think any of these 5 teams can get it through. But I'm going to side with Canada just because I want to, and it's their best roster. And I think Puerto Rico should have enough to get it done. But these games are going to be tough. So it wouldn't shock me if neither team got through.
Yeah, good point. It's one of those highest floor, lowest ceiling that I love to use as an analogy. But that pool probably fits that description.
It does. That's good and bad. Canada could go 4-0, and they could lose them all.
Yeah. Pool B is in Houston at the Astros ballpark, and the names changed so much I'm not even going to go there.
Right.
But you got Brazil with Dante Bichette Jr. and Manny Ramirez's son Lucas. That's all they got. They got Pardinho, who got tonged by somebody in an exhibition game the other day. Eric Pardinho, who was a hotshot prospect with the Blue Jays, is no longer. You got Brazil, Great Britain, Italy, Mexico, and USA. And Italy is, to me, the only team that has a chance to edge out Mexico. But I'm going USA and Mexico.
I agree, and I think I'm picking Italy to edge out Mexico here. They've got some players on that team. Like Kyle Teal's catching for them. There's a hell of a player coming up. So, and Mexico's just they haven't been overly impressive anytime I've seen them in the last little while either. Like previous, WBCs. So, I want to see somebody sneak in, and I'm going to see Italy can get it done. Big upset over Mexico when they play, and I'm going to go USA Italy.
Yeah, I like Randy Rosarena and Jaron Duran on Team Mexico.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Pool C is in Tokyo. That's the one that's underway already. So predicting we're getting a head start and cheating a little bit. That group of 5 is Australia, Chinese Taipei, Czechia, Japan, and Korea. And obviously Japan would be the top team. I was going to go with Czechia till they lost just before we taped. So, the one loss in a 4-game standing it can be devastating. So I'll take Korea to finish second. Japan 1, Korea 2.
Like Chinese Taipei is a pretty good team, but losing to Australia, they're out. They're not beating both Korea and Japan. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a pretty tall order. I'm going to pick a big upset here, and I'm going to pick Korea to win the group. Japan's getting through. So Korea 1, Japan 2. That's going to be my surprise pick here.
Yeah, that's happened before, and Japan came back and they beat Korea in the final. But, that's in a 4-game, especially with the tiebreaker rules, it can be interesting. The first thing is to win the head-to-head, obviously.
Right.
Pool D is in Miami. This is the one that is the reason that this tournament exists, because of the enthusiasm of the fans in this group. You've got the 5 teams: Dominican Republic, Israel, Netherlands, which is obviously more than just the Netherlands, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. And, Dominican and Venezuela, that'll be the game to see. I'm going to go Dominican to win the division, Netherlands with all their players from Curacao and other places to finish second. And Venezuela, we talk about stuff that's happening off the diamond, and obviously their leader being taken down by the U.S. and in a jail in New York City doesn't help anything in Venezuela. And so they may have a talented team, but I'll go Netherlands to finish second.
Was he the 3-hole hitter? I don't think so. The leader?
yeah, right.
I'm going to take Venezuela and Dominican. You're right. I agree with all those things, and they matter, but I still think Venezuela are going to rally around them and find their way into the second round. But I love the Dominican to be a sneaky win-it-all pick. I mean, they're good.
Yeah.
But you're always thinking about U.S. and Japan, right?
Yeah. I often think of the Dominican as only all about hitting, that their offense is what carries them. But you look at their team, they got Christopher Sánchez, Sandy Alcantara, Luis Severino, Bayo as starters, Camilo Doval, Estevez, Abner Uribe, I love. Saranthony's on the team. So they got pitching, they got a bullpen, they got starting pitchers. So we're just picking first round, moving on, but they could be the class of this tournament, especially when you look at the U.S. and they've only got Tarek Skubal for 1 game and Paul Skeens for 2. But Tarek Skubal's pitching against Great Britain. I think you or I could pitch against Great Britain and have a chance. So, why are they wasting him?
I don't know. Very strange, eh?
Yeah. So now that we have Canada advancing, let's just go dig deeper into Team Canada. And you mentioned it in passing, but is this the best Team Canada that they've ever fielded?
It feels like it, doesn't it? I think as this, country progresses in this game, you just get deeper and deeper. Obviously, there are holes. The pitching depth is going to be the real question here. But you've got legitimate major leaguers on the roster now. So you could question the quality of the middle infield, the second, third, short guys, but they're definitely, high-end baseball players when it comes to a tournament like this. Your Julians and your Otto Lopez type guys. I'm excited. The problem is, like you said, you've got guys you can run out there as pitchers, but in the tournament early on, there's 65 pitch limits, right?
Yeah, if you got 65 pitch limit and the Blue Jays, Team Canada has 4 legitimate international starters. They're not all stars, but they've got Soroka, Quantrill, Jameson Taillon, and Logan Allen. Not the Cleveland Logan Allen, but you got 4 guys, and with the 65 pitch limit, you're only likely to go 4 innings. So that still leaves in 4 games 20 innings for the bullpen to pick up. And you look at the Team Canada bullpen, and they got Philippe Aumont, who hasn't really played he retired in 2020. So he hasn't played for a few years. He looked good in the game against the Phillies yesterday, as we record on Thursday. They got Jordan Balazovic, hasn't played in the majors. He was a free agent. Eric Sarantola might be useful in certain situations. Indigo Diaz, playing at AAA for Arizona. Antoine Jean, I'm pronouncing it the Quebec way. He's a free agent, had been with the Rockies. Adam Mako, he could be very valuable. I mean, he's a guy who's a starter in AAA, left-handed. I think I could see him being a key member of that pitching staff.
Yeah, I think he's going to be relied on, actually. I think he's going to get the ball in big moments, in a tight game. And like I said, there's going to be a lot of tight games in this bracket. So, I think you're going to see him get the ball a couple times for sure. So, and for Blue Jay fans, that's going to be interesting, right? So,
yeah, and then another guy who you might see in key moments in the middle of the game is James Paxton, who had retired and didn't play anywhere in 2025. So this is an interesting situation. We all know the talent that he's had, that he has, just whether he's ready. In the game against the Phillies, he pitched in the 5th inning or something. First pitch, 430-foot home run. But he settled down after that. So
it's a real shame Freddie Freeman's not there.
Yeah.
That would really be a big deal. But I mean, say Levine.
So Mako and Paxton, but still 20 innings to fill in the round robin.
At least, yeah.
At least. And Matt Wilkinson was an eye opener. 23-year-old. He's pitching Cleveland AA. He apparently played in the Little League World Series and struck out 16, somebody said. But this is not the Little League World Series.
Yeah.
He was, but he left another left-hander, and he looked really good. He struck out 5 of the 6 Phillies that he faced. And when we say Phillies, we're using that loosely by the time you get to that portion of the game. And Rob Zastrinsky could be a key.
Again.
Yeah, the guys that obviously they could have used, and everybody's got their own reasons for not playing. Nick Pivetta, Cade Smith, Matt Brash, Jordan Romano, Eric Sabrowski, Zach Pop. Those are guys that could have been useful. But I'm sure every other team has a list of guys that they didn't.
They do, but they're important for when you don't have a lot of depth. Cade Smith would have been awfully huge for this roster. But like I said, you're right. I'm sure there's other guys on other teams too.
Yeah, I covered the first 4 World Baseball Classics, Team Canada, and watched closely the one in 2023. And the problem for Ernie Witt's teams have always been behind the plate and at shortstop. And that, when you're looking for a difference maker in terms of 2026 and how that could play out, never have they had not just 2 catchers, but 1 catcher as good as Bo Naylor or Liam Hicks.
That's right.
Who's the combination behind the plate right now. Otto Lopez, you can remember him as a Blue Jays prospect, but he's, he got regular playing time in Miami and looked good in the 23 Classic, and he's back at shortstop. I remember Russell Martin volunteering to play shortstop and them seriously considering having him do that because they were so thin.
I know.
And Adam Hall is the backup shortstop. Seems workable, usable defensively. I don't know if I've ever seen him have an at bat, but yeah.
The outfield's awfully intriguing to me.
Yeah.
Jacob Robson is not a zero out there, and
I love him.
I know. And then you got Owen Casey, who I can't wait to see with Denzel as a legit center fielder, and Tyler O'Neill, right?
I think Tyler O'Neill, just tell him it's every day's opening day, and he'll be all right.
That's April stuff. That's right. Well,
yeah, it'll be fun to watch.
Saturday at 11, first game.
I've been a big fan, and that's another positive for Team Canada is they start with Colombia and Panama, and then have the two toughest teams, Cuba and Puerto Rico, third and fourth. And you need 4 starters because of the rules of the tournament, 65 pitches. And if you throw over 50 pitches, you need 4 nights of rest, which means you can't pitch 2 games in the preliminary round. So you need 4 starters. And by the time Cuba and Puerto Rico get to playing Canada, it'll be not their best starting pitcher. So there's another opportunity. You face Panama and Colombia early on, and you need to go 2-0 in those games. There's no doubt. If you go 1-1, then you have to sweep Cuba and Puerto Rico, and that's not likely. So.
That's not what you want.
3-1 will get them through. But I've watched this tournament since 2006. It's like middle of spring training, but people were all down on 4 nations in hockey. And hockey fans saw the intensity and how they ratcheted it up for that tournament. And the same thing happens in the middle of spring training here. People who haven't seen the tournament before will be pleasantly surprised by the quality of the games that they see.
Now, there's a thought out there I've heard many times that they should be doing this over the All-Star break. When interest is a little different, it's the middle of summer. Guys are fully engaged in the game. What are your thoughts on that? And you got more of an audience, obviously, in the middle of summer.
Yeah, I think that as long as everybody's on board with the pitch limits in the spring training, I think that this is the only time that you really could have it. You can't shut it down for, say, it's 13 days max for the teams that are going to the championship in this format. So you can't shut the game down for 13 days. You'd have to start in the middle of spring training in March, and you'd be finishing in the first week of November. So, yeah, I'm good with this. What I would say is that baseball, in order to play their major leaguers, should enter as a sport in the Winter Olympics.
Okay.
Play in domes. You look at Milan Cortina, and they were 400 kilometers apart. You just find a dome near the site of the Winter Olympics, and you play. Even if you have the ceremony and whatever. But the Olympic Games, both summer and winter, have changed so much in terms of becoming TV events.
Right. And then you'd have a problem with guys not shutting it down in the winter, and you just hear.
Yeah, well, you got the problem now, guys ramping it up too quickly and
sure.
getting hurt. So,
but I think you're right. I think this is the only time really to do this event is spring. Yeah, it makes sense.
I am now. We're getting into Blue Jays right now. 6-man rotation. 6-man rotation becoming more and more likely. For some reason, I've infatuated by the 6-man, ever since we've been doing this podcast. And Pete Walker's tired of hearing from me. I got all these permutations and combinations and things that will work. And then somebody comes up lame and it all goes down the shitter,
which is always the case.
But, Max Scherzer, we spoke about him earlier. but he's in camp. He's been gearing up, expecting to sign probably with the Blue Jays all along. But he's now saying he'll be ready for opening day or very early in the season. So like, it's great to collect all these baubles and starters, but how are you going to pitch them if you don't go 6?
Yeah. And, thinking about it for a while, I'm not sure this is a good fit for them with Max. He's going to demand, obviously, to pitch. He wants to be ready, and he wants to be one of the 5, so to speak. What's he got left, really? I mean, like he didn't give you much last year. And how does it impact the rest of your rotation? Like you said, I think I'm starting to wonder if it's going to be more trouble than it's worth. I mean, I agree with you on what he brings to the table. Especially with the young guys and the rest of the rotation, but catering to a guy who is probably finished when you're trying to win a World Series. I don't know. I'm looking at the big picture and going, how does this fit in, and how does it mess with the rotation and everybody else around it? What do you do with Lauer and Barrios? And they've got to sit on the back burner waiting for the everything to shake out. If you move Barrios and Scherzer makes 3 starts.
Well, that's we've often discussed how Major League Baseball is a copycat game, and it seems like some teams want to copy the Dodgers, where you just gather as many qualified starting pitchers as possible. You look at the Dodgers; they only had one starting pitcher with over 100 innings in 2025, and they won the World Series. And the difference is that the Dodgers can afford to pay all these guys, these starting pitchers, and they defer money like nobody else. They're the greatest deferrers in history. And they sign guys who have a history of injuries. Like, that Blake Snell's not going to pitch 30 games. That other guys are going to be hurt. And the Blue Jays are trying to go that route so that they'll have a fresh 5 in October, plenty of bullets left. Only they got guys like Gosman and Cease and Barrios who never get hurt, and they all want to pitch. They all want to pitch every 5 days. So maybe they're figuring that Max Scherzer won't be healthy. He pitched 85 innings in what was supposed to be a full season in 2025, but he came out of the gate with a thumb injury that somehow affected his right ass cheek. I don't know. So maybe they're counting on that, but you shouldn't be counting on that. And the structure of his contract is such that they can afford to roll that dice. $3 million
for sure,
guaranteed, and then from 65 innings to 155, you get $1 million every. So he's got to perform, and that's probably because of that incentive-laden contract for innings pitched. Is probably why he's saying, "Oh, I'll be ready for opening day," because he doesn't know when his thumb is going to act up, when he's going to be on the IL. And he wants to help. He wants to be here. He wants to be in the dugout. The Jays brass and coaching staff would love for him to be in the dugout on the IL, I think.
Right.
Especially when Shane Bieber comes back.
Exactly.
I mean, there's another name that we haven't even mentioned. But the guy to me that sort of doesn't know how to play the game properly, not the game of baseball, but the game of being diplomatic. PR and diplomacy is Eric Lauer, who came out of his lost arbitration whining about how they told him that there'd be no different pitching long relief than starting, but starting's the only thing. And he's got to be realistic. He's got to look around and say, hey, I was lucky last year. I did a great job for them. But look at this star-studded rotation that I'm a part of, and I'm whining about not starting because instead of $6 million, I'm making $4 million. I don't know. I don't think there's sympathy in the front office.
And again, that's the PR side of it. He's not wrong, that's for sure. But you don't say it. You know what I mean? You just don't make those views public. I mean, yeah, you're going to make more if you start. There's no question about it. And who knows what you were told? I'm sure he's not lying. But there's no value in bitching and whining about it.
So to me, even if you're counting on injuries, even if you're counting on the fact that every year there are injuries in a starting rotation, 8 starters is still too much without going to a 6-man. And I think they need to go to a 6-man. Barrios is pitching for a job here, but also being showcased for 29 other teams. The Braves have joined the list of teams looking for a starting pitcher. We know the Twins, and that would be an ideal fit with Pablo Lopez out for the year and Joe Ryan with his back acting up, starting the year on the IL. There's 2 or 3 other teams with the Braves and Twins that would be interested. So 8 is too many starting pitchers. Look for something to happen other than injuries. Look for something to happen personnel-wise to sort of alleviate the crunch of numbers.
Yeah, and I think this is, I don't know this at all for a fact, but I think there's an agreement with Barrios that they're going to move him. And I think speaking of public relations, where Lauer maybe didn't go right, Barrios has done it well. They've agreed to take the high road, and I think they've probably agreed that they'll move him. That's my thoughts and opinion on that, and whether that's soon or early in the year, or as soon as possible. I think that's what I suspect will happen. And they may, who knows, with injuries, maybe you get another guy back, another depth piece in your pitching department. But I've got to think that's something that's going to happen in the near future.
The record number of Blue Jays that are going to the WBC, I think that's a good sign for the organization that all of these countries are tapping into. It's a good sign for their international scouting department, run by Andrew Tinish. But you got 15 Blue Jays players either in the pitching pool for a second round or on teams right now. Ernie Clement, Team USA, Ernie Clement, and Jeff Hoffman and Tyler Rogers are eligible if USA advances, which we expect. But it doesn't mean that they will be used. It's just that they're eligible. Israel has RJ Schreck and CJ Stubbs from the organization. Puerto Rico, provisional pool is Jose Barrios. I don't know how he got second round, but wasn't eligible for the first round. I guess, is he going to Lourdes or anything in the near future?
Maybe.
Mexico, Alejandro Kirk. Venezuela, Jiménez, Andres Jiménez. Dominican, Vlad. Japan, Okamoto. Canada, Adam Mako. Cuba, Wyrod. Panama, Leo Jiménez. Nicaragua, Ishmael Mungia, outfielder. Great Britain, catcher Will Creswell. So do you think that's a good sign or just a coincidence, Mal?
I think it's a great sign. It could be a little bit of both, I suppose. But the coincidence, you got a lot of international flavor on the roster, which is a great sign for baseball in general. But hey, the more guys that can get that experience, I think it just helps even some of those young guys that maybe you don't totally recognize their names either. No, I think it's great for the system, great for the game. And it gives everybody here a little extra, something else to follow and, pay attention to, because every game you turn on, there's probably going to be some sort of Blue Jay flavor for the most part, other than the Asian teams, for which we've talked about that a million times, other than, you got Okamoto. It's fun for everybody here.
Yeah, I wonder if there's other Asian players out there who have young daughters.
Should be sending over those Blue Jay hats, so they're not allowed to do that, are they?
Yeah.
Only Dodger hats.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Right.
You mentioned the Atlanta Braves, and I know that you've got some connections there. You're especially you mentioned in previous shows how much Alex was an influence on you. There you go. Now, I'm going to ask you to comment on the suspension of Jurickson Profar for 162 games for performance enhancers, and then Johan Rojas, who's 80 games, but he's with the Phillies and was expected to be a fourth outfielder for them.
Yeah, what a shame. I mean, for those that don't think the pressure and money that's in this game isn't there. I mean, guys are always looking for an edge just to elevate themselves in this ball. And the brave one, I don't know what he's thinking. I know that didn't go over so well last season after you give a guy a 3-year deal to be a key component of your club and coming off winning seasons, obviously, in Atlanta. And then you think you got it behind you, and he's a very big part of trying to get back to the playoffs for that club, and then he gets banged for the whole season. I can't imagine the vibes are very high right now, even in the locker room, right? I mean, you've got to imagine you've got a bunch of guys that are trying to put last year behind them. That's a team based on offense, I think, and you lose a big player like that. It's just, getting busted once is one thing. Getting busted twice in consecutive seasons is just a different animal. So, thanks for coming, Jurickson.
Well, that leaves Atlanta and Philly both looking for an outfielder. And
yes.
Let's jump to the Blue Jays situation where they've got a surplus of outfielders. Especially, there seems to be a lot of buzz about Eloy Jiménez, also emanating from the Exit Philosophy podcast, where we've been on
one side of it.
We've been on top of Eloy since the beginning. But Jesús Sánchez, that was a deal that sort of, this guy can't hit left-handers, but he can crush right-handers, which is the majority of starting pitchers. So if you put Jesús Sánchez and his experience and bat in left field and platoon him, would you rather have a platoon of him and Eloy Jiménez, or him and Davis Schneider, or him and Miles Straw?
Well, I think one Eloy plus one Jesús might equal one Rob Deere in left field. So. Excluding the defensive experience,
might equal one Santander.
There you go. Better analogy.
Yeah. Although I like the Rob Deere one.
I think, hey, sure.
The question then becomes,
you get the power that you need.
Do the Blue Jays actually have an availability where they could work out a deal with the Braves, or work out a deal with the Phillies, who are looking for a right-handed platoon in left field? Or do they need to use the remaining option on Lucas and Davis Schneider? They both have options left. So to me, that's one of the remaining questions of this Blue Jays camp, is what to do in that crowded outfield picture, which has got more crowded as we speak. If you anticipate George Springer is going to be happy being the almost full-time DH.
I think obviously Jesús is on a team and he's playing left field as that guy against righties. I think it makes a lot of sense, if you don't make a move, that you send Lucas and Schneider to Buffalo as depth. And if you feel Eloy is worth a look again when bullets fly for real, why not? Because you lost that power with Santander. I think that's something that's going to hurt them throughout the season. And if you can find a guy like that and it clicks, Yeah, especially as if he's just a platoon guy. Why not? Why not? And then you've got Schneider ready to go. If you can make a deal for him, like I say, with the Phillies, where it makes a lot of sense, and get something that's reasonable, do it. He's never going to be higher than this, his value.
Yeah, obviously both those guys, both those names, Lucas and David Schneider, are very popular right now with the fan base. But you're not gonna you don't win by listening to the fan base, And I think that beginning the season with a guy who
that's my concern with Scherzer. They just did that. So let's see.
Yeah.
You're right.
But Jiménez, Eloy, because they got three Jiménez. You count Leo, Andres.
Oh, yes, different spelling, but yes.
Yeah, but we're talking. We're not.
Yes. Fair enough.
But the thing is, you have a guy who surprised you in camp, and if he doesn't make the team, there's a good chance that Jiménez will want to opt out. He will want to leave. So you have two guys with options. Use the options.
Yep.
See what you got. And if it doesn't work out early in a platoon role or whatever role that they're asking of him, then you have these two guys that you could bring up at any time. And to me, that's the way to go, is not just to say, oh, we got to be loyal to the guys who were there for the World Series and contributed. We have to try and win in 2026. I mean, even John Schneider, his opening address said, we're not the defending American League champions. We are playing for 2026, and that's how we got to play it. So to me, that's what he means by that, is you just don't ride on your laurels from the year before. You got to play to win this year.
Agreed. And I think I like the idea, as long as Eloy, I mean, there's a long way to go too, right? Well, is there a couple more weeks, I guess? As long as he shows that.
Yeah, pretty much 3 weeks from when we're recording right now. So.
Right. So as long as he shows that there might be something there, I think you're right. I think that makes a lot of sense, at least to start the season that way.
Yeah. Middle infield reserve, there's another spot. To me, they've got a solid rotation in the infield. And if you consider third base, who plays third base, then obviously Addison Barger comes in from right field. And if need be, if Vlad needs a day off or is DHing, then Okamoto goes over to first. But it's the middle infield. They need one backup middle infielder. And he doesn't necessarily have to play shortstop, because Ernie Clement can play or will play shortstop on the days when Jiménez is not available or needs a day off. So who, in your opinion, Leo Jiménez is really the only one in camp right now, unless you go to some non-roster guys, or this opening day middle infield reserve is not even in camp yet. What do you think?
Well, I think you've made a good point that clearly they're not big on Leo. I like Leo. I'd go with Leo. I think he's solid. And I think when you're looking at a backup infielder, he can play defense for you. And I don't think he's a zero with the bat, but you've made a good point. I mean, they picked up Cowles, who I'm not sure what he brought to the table, who obviously someone else liked what he brings to the table too, because he's gone again. So maybe he's not even on the roster. And there will be guys that are in the same position as the Jays that are shuffling the Schneiders and the Jimenez and the Cowles around. And maybe there's somebody they like better out there. So you're probably right. That's my guess.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Ben Cowles' name, because that was a head scratcher from the moment he reported to camp. You had a waiver claim from the Cubs on February 18th. And the reason really being that Leo Jiménez was the only legit option, and Ben Cowles had some major league experience, and Jiménez was going to play for Panama in the World Baseball Classic. So you needed a guy that you could sort of have a look at while he was gone. And then all of a sudden, 11 days later, after going 0 for 9 with 5 strikeouts and not making any plays in the field, the Cubs reclaimed Ben Cowles off waivers.
And be nice to be wanted like that.
The putting him on waivers was clearly to make room for Max Scherzer, because it was everything was around that same time on the 40-man roster. But from September 1st to March the 1st, Ben Cowles had been claimed off waivers 3 times, and he's been with the Cubs 3 times in the last year.
Hey, man, that's how Jose Bautista started.
That's right. You're right. It was, but I don't think Ben Cowles and Jose Bautista, I don't think Ben Cowles will be on anyone's level of excellence at any point.
Well, right. The Cubs, apparently.
Yeah, the Cubs. But one wonders what Jay's metrics, when they selected Cowles off waivers, what metrics told them that would be a good idea?
Must be a hell of a clubhouse guy, Griff. You know what I mean?
Well. Now we've gone through the two of the spring training needs question marks that remain. One of them is middle infield reserve. One of them is outfield. How about the bullpen spot? There seems to be one bullpen spot left, and there's a lot of candidates out there. The locks to me at this point: Hoffman, Varland. Although we haven't seen Varland pitch at all, have we?
No, that's always a concern.
Yeah. Jimmy Garcia is going to be on the IL. Tyler Rogers, Braden Fisher, Fluharty, Little, Tommy Nance is toast. Lauer, who knows? But Lauer is making major league money.
Oh, he's there.
He's there. So that's 7 if you don't count Nance, and if you count Jimmy on the IL. They have Chase Lee that they got from Cleveland, but he's got options. So clearly that's what's going to happen with him. The guy that's intriguing to me, and I wrote about it earlier in the week, is Angel Bastardo. You know how much I think of him in terms of they need to keep him. They let him go, he goes back to the Red Sox, and that's like, what? You're going to send a guy with that kind of talent back to the Red Sox? So that's another, like Eloy Jiménez, it might be carry him at the beginning of the year and see if that works out. What do you think?
I think they're probably going to try to do that. And I mentioned that before. I think his arm is too electric to send him back before you see how he actually faces real hitters. Again, Griff, the concern is his ability to throw strikes. He's got a nasty changeup, throws hard. Everything you like. If they can find a way to get him through 90 days and send him down, I think that's the plan. And they might be able to do it. So I'm guessing they're going to go with that plan. And then if it blows up in their face, they may have to send him back. I mean with injuries and lack of performance. You don't want to get buried if your bullpen's giving it up and you got to go find somebody else.
I think that's 90 days and then you send him out unless he's really lighting it up at the major league level. But the 8th bullpen guy has never been a guy that is going to make or break your season. That's always a guy that's either mopping up or, if you've got a big lead, you throw him in and try and get 3 to 6 outs out.
But usually the 8th guy is a guy you're sending up and down. So you've got a guy available. They can't do that. So if Bastardo pitches, you don't have him. You don't have an 8th guy to mop up. You know what I mean?
So we're determining here that they're hoping that Bastardo and they're hoping that Max Scherzer come up with a little bit of an injury to put him on the IL. so they could get it. Well, we've had Bastardo for 28 days, And now we can put him on the IL and maybe later on in the year activate him and bring him back for the remaining
Try again.
62 days that he needs, But the inner workings of front offices are sometimes quite astonishing.
If I was Spencer Miles, I wouldn't get too comfortable in a Blue Jay uniform. No. The other Rule 5 guy.
Yeah. No, Spencer Miles as a Rule 5 has been somewhat impressive, but he's got to jump over Bastardo and everyone else who's already there. So it's like I told you the story. Frank ran at the winter meetings one time, was assigned by Dave Dombrowski to prepare the organization for the Rule 5. And so we were in the room the night before the morning Rule 5 draft, and Frank unfolded like one of those things that went to the floor, and he's reading like 20 names, and Dombrowski goes, "Frank, we're only going to make 1 or 0 picks."
Or 0. Maybe.
Which one do you want?
Yeah.
And that's the value of Rule 5. And Spencer Miles was selected because they liked the shape of his pitches in the Arizona Fall League. But please, that's somebody trying to impress the GM, I think.
Yeah, usually they're throwing him a bone too, right? By picking him. Are we ever going to see Jimmy Garcia healthy again, or what?
I don't know. He's always in the last year of a contract, and will be a free agent. And then he always like Siren's song. He lures somebody into signing him, and usually it's the Blue Jays.
And he's a big arm, like he's a big.
Oh, he is a guy. He's one of those guys that classically, if healthy, you save for the 6th inning or 7th inning, runners on second and third, 1 out. You bring him in and he gets out of it, and you go, "Thank you, Jimmy. We'll see you in 2 days."
Yeah.
He's not your closer guy, but he certainly can blow people away in the right situation.
And in a pinch, he can be your closer guy.
Yeah.
In a pinch.
He did it in Miami before he got traded to Houston. He did it. He had like double-digit saves in Miami, and I remember examining it. And on July 3rd. He got a save and was expecting clearly not to pitch on July 4th. And he got called in and he pitched like more than 3 outs on July 4th. And he got lit up like fireworks. And then he got traded shortly thereafter to Houston and didn't do much there. And then the Blue Jays acquired him after that. But he has the ability, as long as you don't pitch him on national holidays.
Right, American holidays.
Right. Well, July 1st is around that time. So.
Yes, that's right.
So that sort of brings us to the end of the podcast. And I'm looking forward to next week being able to discuss the fate of Team Canada, how we did on the national stage of the WBC. But I'm always fascinated by this tournament, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. And I think we covered it. We didn't cover any of the betting angles because that's not what we do.
Yeah, no, not at all.
But I would say having them escape into round 2 for the first time is a pretty good bet.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to bet on the Dominican Republic to win it all. I'll throw you one nugget.
All right. Perfect. Yeah, now we're official. Yeah. Anyway, I appreciate it, Mal. And thank you to all our listeners on wherever you get podcasts, on YouTube, and for your loyalty and sharing with your friends. And we have a growing audience, and we hope it continues to grow and that you continue to enjoy Exit Philosophy. Thanks, Mal.
Thank you.